Hi, in this session I will be discussing the next topic in stock removal control, which is storage bin search for stock removal. So basically in this session I will be discussing about strategies for controlling the storage bin search during stock removal. We will discuss what are the strategies that standard SAP provides for stock removal. So during stock removal, the system first searches for the storage type on creation of the transfer order. The storage type decides the criteria according to which the system selects the quant in storage bins for stock removal. You can assign a stock removal strategy to every storage type for storage bin search. So similar to the way we assign a strategy for put away, we also assign a strategy for stock removal, and each of these strategies for stock removal has a different purpose in the way they operate and in the way they remove the quants from the storage bins. So SAP R3 standard system contains a number of pre-configured stock removal strategies, and those are what you see on the screen. The most commonly used strategy for stock removal is first in first out, or FIFO. Then we also have the stringent FIFO. We have the last in first out, which is the LIFO. Then we have partial quantity strategy. Then we have large and small quantities. We have an expiration date strategy and a fixed bin strategy. Let us see these strategies in a little bit more detail. So I'm here in the storage type definition, and this is the place where we define the stock removal strategies. And you can see we have a number of strategies which are available pre-configured. So let us discuss what is a FIFO strategy. FIFO, as the name suggests, is the first in first out strategy. So basically the system proposes the quant based on the oldest quant first. So to mark the oldest quant, the system refers to the GR date of the document on which the quant was prepared, and that would be the reference date for the system to propose the quant. If we don't want the GR date to be considered as a reference for the oldest quant date, then we have two options of customizing this particular strategy, wherein we can go to interface, define movement types, and the place where we define the link between the reference movement type and the warehouse movement type, there is a column GR date is equal to goods receipt date. If for that specific movement type you given entry here, the first option is goods receipt date is a document date from the material doc. So we can use the document date as a reference, which would be the goods receipt date that would be registered in the quant, or we can use the posting date from the material doc, which would be the goods receipt date in the quant. So these would be the reference dates for picking up the quant as per the FIFO strategy. So what you need to do is make a movement type entry for your own warehouse, because these entries would be applicable to the entire client. So you simply have to copy the 11101 and make an entry for your own warehouse. So if I want to make an entry for 01, for 101 movement type, consider the document date from the material doc as the goods receipt date. So this date will be registered as the GR date for the quant, and this would be the reference for picking up the material as per the FIFO strategy. I won't save this now, just for reference. Next, we have the stringent FIFO strategy. So a stringent FIFO strategy is something that goes beyond the scope of normal strategies that we see over here. So to implement a stringent FIFO, you need to make the setting in storage type search. So I go to stringent FIFO, activate, and if I want to activate a stringent FIFO, all I need to do is select the removal process and then maintain a *** here. So this means the system is going to look for the oldest quant in the entire warehouse and not limit itself to a specific storage type. So this is the way you would implement a stringent FIFO. Also, along with this, we need to make sure that the system search does not look for material in the interim storage bins. So for this, I will just save this and define the exceptions for individual storage types. So here you can define a specific storage type which should not check for the material removal, stock removal. So typically all the interim storage types are marked as no stringent FIFO. So the system is not going to look for material when it looks for the stock, the oldest quantity in the entire warehouse. It won't come to interim storage types to look for the stock. You can similarly exclude any other storage types of your choice depending on the way your material warehouse processes are designed. You can also exclude any specific storage type that you would want. But this is an important step in configuring the stringent FIFO. You need to be sure that you have these storage types, the interim storage type at least, excluded. Stringent FIFO with SLED management is optional and not required. So these two settings are needed to set up stringent FIFO. Then we have the LIFO strategy, which is last in first out. So this is the opposite to the FIFO strategy and can be used when you have something like you're stacking the materials one upon the other and you would want to remove the last put material first, or something that your business would want to have for its specific case. For example, if the business wants that the valuation of the entire material does not change often because of the increasing cost of the material that you are stocking, then you can have something called a LIFO, wherein the moving average price of the material will not be affected due to the extra material or the new material that is coming and being stocked in the warehouse, which is at a higher price. So this is just an example, not something that everyone would want to go for, but then it completely depends on the business application. Next, we have a partial pallet strategy, which is used typically when you are having the palletization data maintained and you are managing your material in pallets, and at times when you would want to remove partial quantities from a particular pallet, or there is a need to store only partial pallets in a specific storage type. So if this storage type is stocking only partial pallets, then you can very well use a partial pallet strategy in such a storage type. Then we have a strategy called the large and small quantities M. I will explain this with an example I had picked up earlier. So this particular strategy is used when you are handling a situation like you have partial pallets handled at the lower racks and the full pallets are on the higher racks, and you have a requirement that as far as possible you need to pick the full pallets, and the partial pallets only need to be picked when you have a quantity to be picked which is less than the palletization quantity. So you have to maintain something called the control quantity in material master in WM2 view. So for example, let's say if your pallet is 10 pieces and you have an order for 9 pieces, then the system would depending on the control quantity that you have maintained would look at the partial pallet or the partial quantity in storage type, which is the lower rack storage type or the CP1 storage type. If your stock removal quantity is anything greater than 9, then it is going to jump to the next storage type that you have maintained in the sequence. So it is going to pick the 10 pieces on one pallet from HR1 and then come back again to CP1 if you define CP1 over here. So large and small quantities need some extra setting in the material master, wherein you set up the control quantity, and the system would always look at the control quantity and decide whether it is going to pick the small quantities from the CP1, or if the stock removal quantity is larger than the control quantity maintained in the material master, then it skips the partial quantity rack and then jumps to the full pallet racks and picks the full pallets from here. So this is a very unique strategy, and to be used in specific cases where there is a business need to be able to supply full pallets if the requirement comes in more than full pallets, or supply partial pallets without breaking a full pallet if the requirement comes for a quantity which is less than full pallet. Next, we have the expiration date strategy H. Now, the expiration date strategy is a variation of the FIFO strategy. However, the criterion for stock removal is the expiration date of the quant and not the goods receipt. So here we have an extra element which is the expiration date. To get the shelf life or the expiration date, we need to maintain the relevant data in the material master in the general plant data storage view 1. So when we maintain the total shelf life and the minimum remaining shelf life, so when we post a goods receipt, the system prompts to enter the date of manufacture and calculates the shelf life expiration date of the material on the basis of the total shelf life that we have maintained. And this data is then further used by the warehouse to pick the material within the shelf life. So here we are like in the stock removal strategies. We define the strategy for expiration date, and here is we activate it for a warehouse. And here we can set it up for a specific storage type. And last, we have the fixed bin strategy. This is used in case we are frequently removing stock from a fixed bin. So we can use this strategy in such cases. The most commonly used strategy would be first in first out FIFO, or at the most stringent FIFO, and rest of the strategies are used in very special exceptional cases.